This is Luke with Agape Photos, and today we're going to go into some basic editing. I got an email in asking me if I could show you guys how to do basic editing towards my style. So I'm going to go in here, show you guys some Lightroom techniques. This is just very basic retouching. This is not going into the advanced stuff, going into Photoshop and taking out glares and all that other fun jazz. Today is just strictly batch editing and doing the basic retouches on portraits. Okay, so let's just jump right in here to Lightroom. Everyone loves Lightroom. So we got a before and after on this photo, and this is a portrait session that I took yesterday. And what we ended up doing, we shot with the Sony a7 III. I normally love my 24 to 72.8. I use a 90mm macro for portraits as well. Beautiful lenses. We'll go into my camera stuff later on in a different tutorial, but today we're going to stick to our editing process here. Okay, so we're just going to take a photo. Oh yeah, I love this photo. This little girl, she was amazing. She cracked me up yesterday. Okay, so we got this. We got a standard photo. What we're going to do is first, we're going to check the white balance. I like to see gray in here because neutral gray is typically what I go for. But seeing that this is fall portraits, we might not do that. We might actually go a little bit warmer right there, bring up the pink, because this is fall portraits, so we really want to draw out the oranges and the reds. For the highlights, I like to move up my highlights just a notch. Now the thing with Lightroom and with any kind of photo retouching is it's always the subtle touch-ups. When I first started, I was one of those guys that had this look for this contrasty kind of look, and I loved it, but then I started going back into my photos back in the day, and I'm like, no, I really hated it. So it's all about the minor touch-ups. I'm going to bring down the contrast just a little, maybe like a -12. What I like doing for my photos is I like crushing the shadows and bringing up the blacks. It gives that faded look. Don't be scared to actually really crush your shadows, because that's what I like doing. Okay, and then for my whites, I like bringing them up just a little. Do a +8. Then I always normally bring the clarity down to like a -9, -10, just because I like that soft look on portraits. Vibrancy, I normally bring my vibrancy down to like a -20, and then I bring my saturation up. That's just my preference. Now, the cool thing about photo retouching is that there's no rules, there's no nothing towards photo retouching. It is up to you, and that's my dog barking. He wants to come in, but he's going to stay outside for a while. If you guys haven't met my dog, he is actually my mascot for Agape Photos. His name is Nikon. I actually used to shoot on Nikon, but I don't anymore. Okay, so the curves layer is what everyone gets scared on, and what I normally do is that there's a little button right here. You can actually see your highlights, lights, darks, and shadows. I normally click on this because I like to have the manual control in the curves layer. Curves layer is your best friend, and it is an extremely powerful tool. It can really draw out your photos, or it can really destroy your photos. It depends on how you want to look at it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring down the whites, just because when you're on social media, you're not really seeing true white, and a lot of people post their photos on social media. And then I like bringing my blacks up just to give that faded look. I used to go all the way up, but I hated that. So we're going to, very nice, settle, fade is what we're going to do. And then I'm going to bring down my shadows just a little, so that way I could see. Okay, so how the curves layer work, which I should have told you guys, is up here in this corner is your whites, it's your lights. So we got your highlights right here, And then we got your midtones right here in the mid, of course, middle, midtones. We got your shadows, we got your blacks. Your blacks are always near here. Always keep a look at your histogram. This is your histogram here. If you guys don't know how to read a histogram, the histogram is always read from left to right. So left is your blacks, and then we get to the whites. So blacks on the left, whites on the right. You always want to try to keep your histogram somewhat in the middle. That just gives you more of a readout to where it's more proper exposure, if that makes sense. For my midtones on this photo, I'm going to draw out the details on here. I really love this photo. This photo is just adorable. Whoa, too much. Okay. Very subtle. Awesome. Okay. Now, this is the scary part, but this is always fun. This is your color layer. Now, if you guys prefer, you can go to HSL, do your saturation. I am one of those guys that love the color. This is what draws out your photos and makes you to your preference what you're actually wanting. Seeing that this is fall portraits, we really want to draw out the oranges and the greens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first bring down the greens all the way down to 100 on my hue. That's already giving that nice subtle crushed green look. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up my saturation on my green to probably like a plus 13. And then I'm going to bring down my yellows and see what that does. Oh yeah. See how the yellows are turning more towards the orange? This gives that more of a fall portrait thing. And I'm going to bring up the saturation on this to like a plus 9. Maybe it will dub this down to... Okay. And if you guys haven't seen this one, this is one of my favorites, which we'll go back to this photo here. This is more of a fall portrait. I'll show you guys before and after, and we'll get back to this. So that's before, that's the after. Now, as you see, I draw out my yellows, my greens, and my blues. We're going to go back into here so we can finish this up. Okay. I'm already starting to really love this. I'm going to tone down the blues. Just because I really want to make this pop. So I'm going to have the saturation of the blues come up just a little. Bring this down to right here. And bring up the saturation of the blues. And bring down the hue to aqua. Now you could just, we could just play around with the oranges as well. Again, it's all up to your preference. Like, you don't want to do so many subtle changes. You don't want to do too many dramatic changes to a photo, especially after it looks so good as is. You just want to do some subtle retouching, you know? I'm going to bring up my oranges. Just a hair. Okay, so next thing what I like doing is called split toning. Split toning, what they do in cinema is the shadows are always more to the blue side and the highlights are to the orange. Since this is fall portraits, I'm going to do the exact opposite because I really want to draw out those oranges. And what we're going to do is I'm going to find an orange color that I really like, and then I'm going to bring down the saturation. Of course, this looks really orange, yes, but it's all going to be fixed here in a second. So what we're going to do is very subtle, do a number, and then we're going to do the highlights. So what you do on the split toning is what you do on one, you do the opposite. It's basically the opposites attract, right? So if you're doing blues on your shadows, you want to do more of an orangey yellow on the highlights. If you do highlights in orange, then you want to do your shadows more in the blue side. So very subtle changes. I'm going to bring this down to like maybe a 9. Now that's starting to look really cool. It's starting to look really good, especially in my perspective here. I really love how the bokeh's running. This was shot with a 90mm macro on my Sony a7 III. I feel like the sharpening is just a little too harsh, so we're going to bring this down just a notch. And one thing to point out, guys, is always crucial to do remove chromatic aberration. I can't stress that enough. This actually does a really good job. Lightroom has some very powerful tools. Always click that remove aberration tool here, and what we're going to do is I'm going to bring down the vignetting and the distortion to like maybe a 75. Maybe a 90. There we go. Normally I just click auto, but because it normally does what we want to do for the transform tool, it normally tries to determine where it's straightened up, but it's already very straight. What we're going to do on this now is we're going to bring it down to the effects. I always like giving a subtle vignetting. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring this down to like a -10. Maybe bring the midpoint up to 51. Okay. Yeah. So you're already seeing some very good changes. Let's just see what we're going here. So this is before and this is after so far. I'm really starting to love this because it's starting to look like a fall portrait. But we can do some more here. What we're going to do is we're going to play down here, and this is what we call the camera calibration tool. We're going to bring down the reds. Just see what we can do. Oh, we're going to turn her pink. We're going to do +8, see what we got on that. Okay. Very subtle changes, very subtle changes. Okay, so greens, that's a little bit too much orange, but we do want to bring this down to like a yellow, so we're going to go down to like a -30 and bring the saturation up to maybe like a +3. For blues, we could go all the way, yeah, we could go all the way down. It's just all playing around. Oh, look, we could turn her purple. So we're gonna find out our nice little subtle changes. Subtle changes. I have too much fun with this. Okay. I think that, okay, that looks a whole lot better. And what we're going to do is I'm going to bring over to the HSL side. Let's see what we got. Okay, so we got that. I might want to bring out the luminance on the orange side just a little bit more. And then bring out the reds just a little hints. Perfect. So you guys just edited a photo with me. This is before, this is after. I really don't think that we need to do too much more to it. I might actually just add the exposure just a little bit more because I really like the bright look to it. And perfect. Alright guys, I really love this photo. We're gonna keep on diving in here, see what else we can get in. She is such a doll and she's such a ham, tell you that. Yeah. I love doing children's portraits. I love doing family portraits. Everything that you can think of, I love it. Some of them, you know, for fall portraits, I don't normally always go with just the orange side. I mean, because this is before and after of this one. But, you know, again, this is fall portraits. Sometimes I like crushing the greens, like this one. I could honestly make it more fall and autumn type colors, but I wasn't really feeling it for this one. And it all depends on what you guys are looking for when it comes to photo retouching. I'm going to get back into advanced editing in Photoshop here in the next couple weeks, show you guys a little bit how to remove glare on glasses and how to actually shoot people with glasses, camera speaking. Yeah, I'm going to be more specific on that. So when you're shooting people with glasses like this one right here, you're going to get some glare, and this is a candid shot. I'll show you guys a better one here, because let's see here. Yeah, so right here you're going to see a lot of glare, and the only reason why you're seeing a lot of glare is because it's a candid shot. What I normally do when I do portraits is I take one photo with glasses on, one photo without the glasses. It just makes it easier when you're putting into Photoshop to where you could take the glare out. But seeing that I didn't do that with this one, we're not going to be able to do that. But we're going to get into advanced editing in our next tutorial, which should be next week or sometime. Until then, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this little editing basics. The one thing I really love about Lightroom is that you can do batch editing versus Photoshop you can't. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. We will get back to you guys next week for our next tutorial. Until then, practice and enjoy. God bless.